Welcome to Shadow Fable. If you enjoy unsettling tales that linger in your mind long after the lights go out, don't forget to subscribe and settle in. Tonight's story is about a man trying to move on after his wife leaves him, but some sounds won't let him. She left on a Tuesday. No shouting, no tears. Just a suitcase in the hallway and a note beside the coffee machine. The same machine I'd descaled just the week before because she'd asked. It's not about you, I just can't anymore. That was 6 months ago. The quiet, at first, was the worst of it. You get used to the rhythm of another person's presence, their footsteps overhead, the sound of a hairdryer humming through a closed bathroom door. The way she used to hum while folding laundry, absent-mindedly. The same 3 or 4 melodies over and over. Always off-key, always endearing. Now the house was still. The kind of stillness that makes you feel like you're under a bell jar. Except, 2 weeks after she left, I started hearing her again. Not footsteps, not drawers opening or the sound of glass on countertop. Just the humming. Software. Almost thoughtful. It would start sometime after midnight, faint at first, drifting from the ceiling above the living room. The upstairs bedroom, ours. At first, I thought it was my mind playing games with me. I'd read that the brain can simulate sounds when it misses them. Phantom noise, grief doing funny things. So, I didn't investigate. Not right away. I'd sit on the couch, the TV muted, pretending to scroll my phone while I strained my ears. The melody was always the same. Blue skies are around the corner, some old tune her grandmother used to hum. She picked it up as a kid and never dropped it. But I never said anything to anyone, because what was there to say? My ex-wife moved out, and now I hear her ghost doing laundry? Still, I tried to rationalize it. Maybe I'd left a window cracked. Maybe it was wind, plumbing, the creaks of an old house settling, but none of those things hum in a woman's voice. After a few weeks, I started sleeping downstairs on the recliner. I never went upstairs after dark. It's strange, the things you get used to. The humming became background noise. An odd comfort in a way. A reminder she'd once been here. A ghost, sure, but a familiar one. And then it changed. One night, around 3 in the morning, I woke up with a jolt. The kind of jolt you get when your subconscious picks up on something being off. It wasn't the humming. That was still there, it was the words. Not full sentences, just fragments, muttered lines between the melody. I sat up slowly, barely breathing. I thought I heard her say my name. Martin. That was enough. I turned on every light in the house and stood at the bottom of the stairs looking up into the dark. I called out. Is someone up there? Nothing. Just a long pause in the humming. As if she'd heard me, as if she was listening back. Then it started again, soft, slow, humming. I didn't sleep the rest of the night. In the morning, I called Lisa, my sister, and asked if she could stop by. I didn't tell her why, just said the house was getting to me, which was true enough. She came by that afternoon, brought banana bread and her usual overbearing concern. Said I looked pale, asked if I was eating. I lied and said I was. Then she offered to stay the night. And I almost said yes. But something in me, something I didn't want to examine too closely, didn't want to share it. Didn't want her to hear it. The humming, it felt like mine. By the end of month 4, I started noticing little changes, things out of place. A mug I hadn't used in weeks in the sink. A towel I hadn't unfolded back on the rack. And the mirror at the top of the stairs. One morning, I saw a handprint on it. Small, feminine, smudged across the glass like someone had leaned too close. But I hadn't been up there, not in weeks, and I was sure, absolutely sure, I hadn't touched that mirror since she left. Still, I cleaned it. Told myself maybe it was old. A remnant I just hadn't noticed. But that night, after the humming stopped, I went up. Slowly. Step by step. The house still and heavy around me, and the handprint was back. Fresh. As if someone was reminding me. I was here. One night the humming stopped altogether. That was scarier than hearing it. The silence that followed felt wrong. Like a held breath, like something waiting. I barely slept. And in the morning, on the nightstand beside her side of the bed, was a mug, still warm. I stared at it for a long time. It was hers, the chipped one with the faded sunflower. I lifted it, smelled it. Coffee, black, just how she used to take it. My hands shook. I dropped the mug. It shattered across the hardwood. I finally called her. Not to accuse, not to ask her if she'd been sneaking in somehow. Just to hear her voice. It went straight to voicemail. I didn't leave a message, didn't know what to say. A week later, I got a letter in the mail. No return address. Just my name in her handwriting. Inside was a single photograph. United States. At the lake. Summer 2009. She was laughing, arm around my shoulder, squinting into the sun. I hadn't seen that photo in years. On the back, in her handwriting again, I miss the way you used to look at me. No signature, no date, just that. That night, I sat at the foot of the stairs, photo in hand. The humming didn't come. Only silence. So I whispered into the dark, I miss you too. And for a moment, just a moment, I thought I heard the floor creak overhead, like someone shifting their weight, like someone listening. The creak faded as quickly as it had come, but it left behind a stillness so heavy it settled into my chest. I stood, every part of me aching with dread and longing. Then, almost without thinking, I climbed the stairs. My hand hovered over the banister. The wood felt colder than it should. Each step underfoot groaned in protest, like the house itself disapproved. At the top, the hallway stretched in eerie silence. The bedroom door was slightly ajar, and I saw it again. The mirror. This time, the handprint wasn't the only mark. There were words, barely visible in the foggy sheen, as if someone had written on it with their fingertip. Do you remember? I stared at it for so long my eyes began to blur. Do I remember? Of course I do. I remember the way she used to stand in front of that mirror, adjusting her earrings, turning her head to both sides like she was trying to find the version of herself that felt right. I remember the fights that started in that very room, always ending in apologies and promises that things would get better. I remember everything. But I never answered the question out loud. I just backed away, slowly, and went back downstairs. I started locking the bedroom door after that. Not for safety, for separation. Whatever was happening in that room, it wasn't for me anymore. Or maybe it was for me. But not the part of me that belonged in this world. It was for the part of me that still lived in the past. That still reached for her side of the bed in the middle of the night. That still hoped she'd walk through the door with some explanation, some twist in the plot that would make everything make sense again. But life doesn't work that way, and neither does grief. 2 nights later, I woke up to the sound of the door creaking open upstairs. Not the hum this time. just the slow, deliberate sound of the bedroom door, long unused hinges groaning softly in the dark. Then, the unmistakable sound of footsteps. Not heavy, not intruder heavy. Light, barefoot, familiar. I lay frozen in my recliner, blanket pulled to my chin like I was a child again. The steps didn't come down the stairs. They moved across the floor above me, to the edge of the hallway, right above where I lay, then stopped. I didn't dare move, didn't dare speak. Then I heard it. Not humming, breathing. Steady, controlled, like someone was trying not to be heard. I waited, heart pounding against my ribs, for something, anything, to change. And then, just before sunrise, the sound faded. Not with footsteps, just faded, like fog dissolving in the morning light. I made an appointment with a therapist the next day. I told myself it was overdue, that I needed help sorting through the trauma. I didn't tell her about the mirror, or the mug, or the humming. I just said, "I think I'm struggling with letting go." She nodded. She was kind. Offered breathing techniques, gentle affirmations, but none of it touched the core of what I was dealing with. Because this wasn't just grief, it was presence. It was memory turning tactile. It was a life I thought had left, but was still lingering in corners and mirrors and melodies. 1 week later, I made a mistake. I played the song, "Blue Skies Are Around the Corner." I found it on an old playlist of hers. The melody filled the room like smoke, delicate and nostalgic. I sat on the couch and closed my eyes, and halfway through the second verse I heard it, the hum, syncing with the music, upstairs, like she was remembering with me, like we were humming together again. I started crying, not from fear, from something worse, comfort. And that's when I realized I wasn't afraid anymore. Not of the sound, not of the presence, not even of what it might mean. It felt good to pretend. To let myself believe, even for a few minutes, that maybe this wasn't just memory or madness. Maybe something of her had really stayed. Not as a ghost, not exactly, but as an echo, an imprint. And then things began to shift. Again. The next morning, I found a note on the kitchen counter, handwritten. The same slanted cursive I'd seen 100 times in grocery lists and birthday cards. "You're starting to see it now, aren't you?" No explanation, no signature, just that. I stared at the note for a long time. I didn't throw it away, didn't show it to Lisa. I tucked it into my wallet like a secret, because by then I had started to see it, or maybe I'd just started to accept it. The noises, the mug, the breathing, the song. All of it was part of something bigger, something I couldn't explain, but it wanted to be noticed. And so, one evening, I went upstairs again. The first time in weeks. The room looked untouched, clean even. The bed was made. Her robe hung on the back of the door. The mirror was spotless. I stood in front of it, half expecting another message, a smudge, a fingerprint. But it was blank. Only my reflection, and then I saw it. In the corner of the glass behind me, a figure, not shadow, not suggestion. Her. She stood just behind my shoulder, head tilted, as if watching my expression. But when I turned, nothing. Only the room. Empty, quiet. I looked back at the mirror. Still nothing. She was gone. Or had never been there at all. That night, I didn't sleep downstairs. I stayed in our room, turned down the sheets, laid my head on the same pillow I hadn't touched in months. And for the first time, the humming began right next to me. Not above, not behind a wall. Beside me. Software, low, just a few notes. I didn't move, didn't open my eyes. I just whispered, "Why are you still here?" And in the silence that followed, I thought I heard her answer. Not out loud, not with words, but inside me, as if the thought wasn't mine. "Because you are." I woke before sunrise. Alone. The house was still again, utterly still. And it stayed that way for days. No humming, no breathing, no signs. Like something had finally shifted, like a door had closed, quietly, permanently. Last week I visited Lisa. I didn't tell her everything, just said I was doing better, sleeping upstairs again. She smiled and said it was about time. Then she paused and said something strange, that she'd found an old voicemail on her phone. From months ago, from my number. Only I don't remember ever calling her. She played it for me, and what I heard was humming. The same melody, slow, software. And at the end, just before it cut out, my voice saying, "I miss the way you used to look at me." Thanks for listening to Shadow Fable. If this story gave you chills or made you glance over your shoulder, make sure to subscribe, share, and leave a comment with your thoughts. Until next time, sleep well.